Yuumi is a new champion in the League of Legends scene that's highly debated. Some players may feel like she's completely useless and they'll even go as far as banning her so their own teammates can't choose her, while others think she's incredibly strong and a great pick with a lot of different AD carries. In this video, I'm going to look at the short history of Yuumi and try to determine how strong she is in the current meta in League of Legends and whether or not she's worth adding to your champion pool. When Yuumi was released, everybody was freaking out about how terrible of a champion she was, despite the clickbait titles like "the best champion ever created, Riot is trolling again." This was mostly completely warranted due to her horrible win rate of 30%. This is probably the lowest win rate on a champion I've ever seen on release, so I don't blame everybody for freaking out. Her damage was terrible even on her ultimate, and her healing was very lackluster. It felt like there was pretty much no reason whatsoever to pick up a Yuumi as your support champion when you could pick better enchanters like Sona or Nami. From pretty much instant feedback, however, Riot did realize how bad of a spot Yuumi was in. They rolled out a hotfix really quickly which raised her base mana regeneration, passive mana restore, passive shield, projectile damage on her Q, the slow percentage from her Q, base minimum and maximum heal on her E, and they raised the multiple hit damage from 40 to 50% on her ultimate. Almost none of her ratios went up on her abilities, but all of the base numbers did. This meant that she'd scale pretty much exactly the same as before, but she would be stronger in the early and the mid game. Yuumi is, believe it or not, a champion that scales rather well, at least for a support champion. Here's a graph showing her win rate by game length. As you can see, her win rate raises as the game goes longer. Like I mentioned, this is because she has pretty good scaling compared to most of the support champions out there, so although she doesn't have the strongest early game in the lane phase in most situations, she will get stronger as the duration of the game increases. I would therefore advise that if you do have a team already drafted heavily for the late game, you may want to pick a support champion instead that is stronger in the early and the mid game to help your team get there rather than relying on getting to the late game. In League of Legends though, we must also remember that a champion's win rate is definitely not everything. Although it can usually help you determine what is strongest in the current meta, high skill cap champions often have a low win rate, although they have the potential to be the strongest ones in the game. If we look at the lowest win rate for mid laners in the game, you can see champions like Akali, Ryze, Aurelia, LeBlanc, and Yasuo. All of these champions have the potential to hard carry games in the right hands and get banned by the player base rather often despite their low win rates. If we switch over to the top lane, we yet again see Ryze, Akali, Yasuo, and Aurelia, and instead of LeBlanc, we have Sylas. Yet again, another very strong champion in the right hands that has the potential to 1v9 in the right circumstances. The reason I even bring this up at all is because I feel like Yuumi possibly fits into this sort of category as well. She seems to have a relatively high skill cap compared to the majority of support champions, but I have seen Yuumi played well many times now, and damn can she ever be a strong champion. Here is a clip of Tyler1 talking about how strong he thinks Yuumi is at the moment as an example.
Yuumi last game did more damage than fucking me. Her jungler Karthus? Oh, we Gucci. Broken! I love it though!
When someone then mentions that she's receiving more buffs on the PBE, which isn't the case, Tyler thinks Riot is insane for wanting to make her even stronger.
There are Yuumi buffs on the PBE? Bullshit. Wait, are they stupid?
From what I've seen, there's a massive difference in a Yuumi played poorly and well. First, Yuumi seems to be best played when you have a rather mobile team, and especially an AD carry like Ezreal for an example. This can allow you to get off some really strong ultimates as well as remain somewhat safe yourself, because if the champion you're connected to dies, you're basically just another free kill. Your passive is then probably the most important thing for you to use properly. A bad Yuumi will usually just stay connected to their AD carry and throw out their Q ability when they should also be detaching and trying to get off their passive auto attack. This is a very strong ability in trades and should be able to give your AD carry a pretty decent shield, which will absorb a lot of damage. It is important to go for the auto attack only when you feel like you're rather safe, because if you do get caught out, Yuumi will die incredibly quickly. Then as for your Q ability, you should only really be tossing it out when you are attached to one of your allies. This is because it'll last a lot longer and you will be able to redirect it, making it a lot easier to hit. As for your E ability, please stop spamming it whenever you have charges and your AD carry is already on a high health pool, unless you need that speed boost. This is because it has a lot of scaling based on your target's missing health, and it does virtually nothing when used on a high health target. Yuumi's ultimate is pretty decent, and it's great for engaging or just trying to peel people off of your team. It is very similar to using something like a Sona ultimate, so use it when needed, but keep in mind you need to angle it properly and 3 waves must hit your target to root them. After the hotfix, and since people have been practicing her a lot more, her win rate has raised a lot. Her win rate has been climbing steadily ever since her release date, and it's getting closer and closer to 45% depending on the search parameters you use while looking up her win rate. Once people have played her 30 times in ranked, the win rate is also above 50%. I believe this is mostly due to the fact that she does have a relatively high skill cap, and as people get better on the champion, of course her win rate is climbing. I don't think as she sits right now she is a top tier support by any means, but I also don't think she's completely useless like some people still think. With just a bit of practice, she can be a very strong champion, so it's not necessary to dodge your games or flame people when they're thinking about picking her. Yes, I still see this to this day.